Ladies and gentlemen, filmmakers and moviegoers alike, welcome to this week's episode of Critically Casual. I'm your host, Srekcuf5, and joining me as always is the amazing DorkyDev, who just mic punched. How are you doing, Dev?
That didn't make noise, did it?
I didn't really hear it, no.
That's kind of impressive. Nice job, Filters. Hi.
Hi, Dev. How are you doing today?
Doing good, just waiting on my food. I am trying something different, though, because I'm... Wow.
Don't worry. It's not there anymore.
Uh-huh. I am making some shredded barbecue beef, or chicken, sorry. Which I'm using a new barbecue sauce that we started selling at work. That is a Moscow Mule flavored. So I was interested in it. I tried the sauce. It's got that kind of not kick. I don't know how to put it, but it's got a little punch to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
There's a tang, maybe? A zest?
It'd probably be more zest. It'd be more zest would be a more proper term for it.
Okay. Nice.
Start that cooking.
Sweet. For me today, I'm home alone. So, I might actually stream after this tonight. I don't know. Because no one could tell me to be quiet.
That's fair.
Yeah, I'm still debating. I might decide by the end of the stream. But I'm excited.
Well, if this is a short stream, I'm down to play tonight.
We'll see what happens. But, so let's start talking about today. Today I've called it Tremorous Tensions. What? There's nothing wrong with it.
You're the worst.
I don't know.
Also, something that I've noticed over at Twitch right now, it's kind of interesting if you don't click watch now with 2 viewers. It puts that in front of the stream. So it's kind of interesting when you had the pre-show title on there. There's that live now box.
I'm not sure I know what you're talking about, honestly, but
when you're on our channel now, when we're not live, right? It has watch the previous stream kind of thing.
Okay, yeah.
That box that says watch this and it has the box next to it.
Mm-hmm.
That box stays there when the stream starts, but that the video disappears and behind the backdrop becomes us being live up in the top of it.
Oh.
So when we went live, I was like, "Where'd the stream go?" I hear it, but I don't see it. But it was because it was a still image, and I didn't really process that. Oh wait, that is the stream.
That's funny. Twitch is evolving, and we're learning slowly together. That's awesome.
Always.
Why's Twitch got to be so difficult?
I'm fine with it. It's cool innovations and stuff.
Yeah. All right. So for today, with Tremorous Tensions and all of Twitch's innovations, we're going to talk about holes in Disturbia. I got nothing to say before we hop in. You got anything else you want to say?
Nah, I'm good.
All right. So let's start digging ourselves into these holes.
Let's dig.
Yeah. Let's talk about Holes, the kids movie that doesn't stop kidding.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, it's not. I'm not. That's a little dramatic there. But this was, I'll say, overall, if I want to keep this short and sweet and to the point, it was cute.
It's still a good movie. I still thoroughly enjoy this. Acting in this is really good. Even for a bunch of teenage kid actors, they're all pretty good. And you got Sigourney Weaver, our Marvel connection of the day, because she was in the Defenders. Like everyone's pretty good in it. I think my only complaint upon this rewatch is the flashbacks. How they're cut was jarring. I didn't remember how like it'll be the scene, and then it like someone will say a line, and then it cuts to a flashback, and then the flashback happens like 5 lines, cuts back to reality, cuts back to the flashback. I'm like, just continue the flashback.
And the problem too is the flashbacks aren't even like in chronological time either. They're jumbled up through time. So you'll be at one point in the flashback, then you'll go to modern time, then you'll go to a flashback that's 15 years later, then you'll go back to modern times, then you'll go to a flashback near the first flashback's time era, and it gets, it's not ultimately it's not that hard to watch and follow, but at the same time, it's not well done. It's kind of a jumbled mess.
Yeah, it's just not cut well.
Yeah.
I think that's my only complaint. It was not edited well.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, my only other complaint other than that would be maybe the CG when it came to the computer-generated lizards.
And a couple of the rocks.
Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I'd say I still enjoyed Holes. Like,
oh yeah, without a doubt. This was a good return to this movie. I haven't seen it in so long, and I was like, you know what? It still holds up in my mind.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely some fun stuff in there. The part that I don't think I like about this movie is the fact that it wraps everything up in such a nice, neat little bow. Like literally everything.
It's movie.
I know. That's still the one thing I don't like about this is they had one thing happen, and because this one thing happened, all problems fixed. And I'm sure I like it. I'll give it that. I don't mind it at all. You know? It's just annoying sometimes.
It's fine.
But part of me also enjoys the fact that some of the motifs throughout the whole movie actually do kind of help at the very end. Like some of the flashbacks, they bring up food, and then that food's important in modern times, and like it's interesting.
Oh, well, I picked up on something this time for the first time. Hey, that lake had to be massive.
I agree.
Goddamn.
That lake had waves. Lakes don't have waves unless they're massive.
Because also, where the onions were?
Mm-hmm.
To get there by boat? Either that lake, like, you still either had to hike, or it was, like, high enough up it, the water-wise, that you didn't have to hike half the thing. Either way, that lake would have been giant. And the fact that it disappeared in, like, 10 years?
Yeah, that's another problem. Timelines. Like, the lake itself disappears rapidly, like, very quickly.
Yeah.
We have... that's a problem, actually, in our other movie as well. But then we have this... I don't know entirely what happens, ultimately. Like, it just... Lake dries up really quick. We can't really quite figure out chronologically where we're jumping in time sometimes if you're not paying attention with the time jumps. But then there's also like, how long has we been out here? How long has this happened? How long has this person been here? Like the time stuff is a little confused every once in a while.
Yeah, it's just a little.
You're reminding me of things I don't like, Dev. But still, it's a kids' movie.
It's still a fun movie, though.
And it's fun, yeah. Like, it's kind of cute, ultimately. I'd say it has a much better story, or a much better message than our next movie. But...
Oh, yeah, a better message, but arguably, I think the other one's more fun.
Okay.
More... I'll talk about one.
No, yeah, absolutely, I understand. So,
yeah, no, I think I enjoyed this movie. I still thoroughly enjoy this movie, and still probably one of my favorite movies growing up. Then, it still holds up.
It was good. It was nice. The one question I do have for you, though, is: do you think there were too many characters at all?
Like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So, like, a bunch of these characters that we have are kind of a joke. Will show up every once in a while, like Barf Bag, for instance. He's a named character in this movie, but he doesn't do anything except say one line.
He doesn't say any lines.
No, he says his name.
No, he doesn't.
Yeah, Barf Bag. Yeah, he's like, it's better than being called Barf Bag. That's his one line in this whole movie.
No, Barfbag got bit by the rattlesnake.
Eh.
You're thinking of Zigzag or Squid.
Either way, like,
The other.
still, that's still my point. Ultimately, is there's just so many names and so many.
I'll be
people.
right back.
All right, no worries. His food's probably here. There's just so many names and so many people. Don't get me wrong. Those names and those people help create some interesting moments, which can help establish our character, like, and why he's good. Which our character is Stanley. Stanley Yelnats. Which I gotta say, that's kind of silly that his name is his name for forward and backwards. But still, it's cute. It's a kids movie. Whatever. I'm trying not to be overly critical because I could easily just tear this movie apart, honestly. There are so many things that I could just say that'll be like, oh, this is an awful movie. But it's not an awful movie. It really isn't. And it's hard for me to be like, it's not necessarily hard for me to be like, these are the good things in the movie. But I, for some reason, like to point out the negatives when it comes to movies.
It's what you're good at.
Yeah. So, like, even though I'll point out the negatives, I'll continuously say that this isn't a bad movie.
No, it's not. It's got flaws, but still enjoyable.
Yeah.
Still thoroughly enjoyable.
And, like, don't get me wrong, I probably won't watch this for a while, but I enjoyed this watch through. I thought overall it was enjoyable. The story was ultimately a little too neat, but I still liked it. It'll work just fine. I thought it was kind of interesting that they touched upon, like, different issues that were, like, slightly present, I guess. Like, they essentially lightly touched racism in this movie, but
As lightly as possible.
yeah.
This movie has a little bit of, I don't know, it might be, I can't tell 100%, a little bit of white savior in it.
I don't know.
Because they mutually help each other the entire movie, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But it does do some of the, well, the white man will teach you. Sorry, I just watched a video on white savior, so
No, yeah.
it's like
I don't necessarily think it's white savior in this movie.
no, because like it does, like they help each other throughout the entire movie,
Mm-hmm.
and in the end, it is Zero who saves the day.
I don't know. It's like, that's a little complex because it's a little bit on both sides because they help each other, but it's, I don't know. It's ultimately like Zero wouldn't have been helped if it wasn't for Shia's character. So,
Yeah.
like, I guess I could see an argument for it. Like, I could see somebody...
It's just one of those things that I thought of that, like, I don't, like, I'm not the one who can make that call, but I'm like, I could see that call being made.
Yeah.
The only reason I'm not going to make that call is because I don't fully, at least with that, I don't fully, like, it's not harder to see, because at least with this one, I'd say it's harder to see, but, like, other movies, it's really obvious, like Green Book or, with Blind Side, stuff like that, where, you know, like, white person makes it so black person's life is better, stuff like that.
Oh, what movie was it that very recently did that won the Oscar?
Green Book.
Was it Green Book?
It was Green Book. The one with Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, it was Green Book, yeah.
I think it was Viggo. Yeah. So, like, this one, like, it dawned on me. I'm like, it could be that, but it's not quite that. Like, it's taking parts of that. Is that what I would say? You know what I mean? But it's not what it's trying to do, I guess.
No, yeah, this is definitely more of a story of just bettering people, I guess, and bettering personalities and character. Like, it's more of I'd say overall the moral of this story is don't be selfish, help others out, because when you're selfish, everything falls apart.
And also, it's good to have luck. I need to figure out what fucking ancestor didn't take Madame Zeroni up the mountain. Because that would explain a lot.
It would. That would explain a lot. For you. Like, I feel like it explained... I don't know, because sometimes I feel like I'm unlucky. You guys say I'm pretty lucky, but I don't tell you my unlucky stories.
Fair, but your unluckiness isn't like almost a personality trait at this point.
Depends on who you talk to. My local D&D group that I've played make 4 or 5 games with, they think I have an aura of dropping, which means I just have to be near something and eventually something will fall. So.
Fair.
But then again, we're talking about dice, so.
True.
Okay.
A little different kind of luck.
So, is there anything else you want to talk about in Holes? Non-spoiler.
Oh, really? I think I hit on my point. I thought about it heavy today. I was like, Holes just I can't get past this editing. That's the one thing that like brings it down for me.
So the thing that digs deep is into your hole is the E spot. I get you.
Yeah, it's just the editing's just weird. Like I just don't get it. I don't know who let them make that decision to like the amount of fade transitions to another fade transition within like 5 minutes is maddening.
I feel like one thing that this movie would have really benefited more from is match cuts, which all a match cut is say like you have my face here, and then you cut to an image that looks like my face or has the same general shape as my face. Like I feel like that would have helped a lot with this movie rather than just fade to black, fade into we're in the past.
Or even fade to white, or fade to like fade scene into scene.
Yeah.
Like
transitions.
Yeah.
Crossfade, that one.
And then just cutting the scenes differently to where they should just like draw like even if like what would have made this better is if the flashbacks were put together and then they had narration over them.
It was actually kind of funny because there's that one point in this movie where I was like, why are we even seeing this story? Because there's one point where we're seeing a flashback where it doesn't even make sense to us as in the audience yet. It's like, why do we see these two characters right now? And then eventually it boils.
Are we talking about kissing and
yeah.
At the school?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Before we even know their story.
Yeah, we see them before we even know why they're important. Which I guess part of that is why this is the suspenseful thriller week. Is you got to figure out the clues and piece it all together.
Yeah.
What do you know?
A little bit.
So yeah,
it's just weird.
So Deb, I'll give you your 10 popcorn kernels then. How many would you give Holes?
Usually I have this written out by now over here.
Oh.
I haven't written it out yet because I don't quite know where I want to put it. I'm feeling an 8.
Okay.
I'm going to give it an 8. You know, I'm going to give it an 8. Kid point. That solidifies it. There we go.
Okay.
What are you going to give it?
Oh, I forgot about kid points. I came up with the kid
it's
points.
At least 1 point. What? At least 1 point above where you would put it.
Shit.
I was leaning 7, 7.5, maybe 8, so I'm just going to put it at 8, you know what I mean?
I was thinking hard 7.
So
before
8.
the kids point, yeah. Damn it. Fucking kids point.
That's a solid 8.
God damn it. Fucking kids point.
Hey, we both agree. It's exactly where this movie is.
Like, that's the one problem I feel with kids movies. Is that they can be so much better. They can be so much more complex.
I agree.
But
and like I said, this movie was above average easily.
Oh, yeah.
Like it's a fun movie. It's enjoyable. Kind of like the next movie that I find this movie weirdly enjoyable. I don't know why.
Just tells.
Especially upon this last rewatch.
I was about to say, yeah,
Like,
you find this movie enjoyable tells me you're a stalker on the
No.
inside.
No, that's not why. I like suspenseful thrillers, and when this movie actually starts doing the suspenseful thriller part, it's really fun. The rest of the movie
Yeah. So
exists.
let's talk our next movie, which is Disturbia, which is where I put the graphic from today from. Like, can you tell?
Except you added the
It's modern. It's modern Shia, and it's us.
yeah.
And he has big
That was
old
pretty
eyes.
good. I enjoyed it.
I enjoyed that too.
All right. So this movie, it should have focused more on the thriller
100%. This movie,
because the romantic subplot and everything, or this movie needed to be 15 minutes longer.
I don't necessarily think it needed to be longer. I don't like unless it amped up the tension a lot. In that extra
like
15 minutes.
like I'm saying, like it should have done, like in that 15 minutes, it should have been like that 15 minutes is strictly devoted to thriller.
Because that was actually one of the notes I had in here. It was 30 minutes into the movie before we started having anything that really started popping in any sort of tension at all, and that kind of bugs me sometimes because I enjoy horror movies. I enjoy scary things, thrillers, suspense, all that fun stuff. Everybody should know this by now who watches our show. That's my genre of movie. So I don't know why, it just is. And it just bugs me sometimes because the storytelling in these movies is so slow.
Oh, you know what? I forgot to do last movie.
Uh-oh.
Real quick, put on the last movie thing.
Last movie. We're back.
Pulse
to
came
movie
out
one.
in on April 18th of 2003.
I think we can
with
skip
a
this part.
box office of a budget of 20 million, opening U.S. weekend at 16 million, gross U.S. at 16 million. Gross U.S. Accumulated was 67 million, and worldwide was 71 million.
All right, tell me.
Okay, on to the next movie.
Yeah,
Disturbed.
Disturbia.
It came out. Whoa, wait, no way. Did that?
Came out 4 years later.
Oh, almost to the date. Like April 13th, 2007. So almost exactly 4 years by like 5 days off. This movie had a $20 million budget as well, with a $22 million U.S. opening weekend. So it made its estimated budget right then. In the U.S., it made $80 million, and worldwide, it made $118 million.
Not bad, not bad.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, but yeah, that's the first 30 minutes of this movie is this weird, like, part romance, part just teen movie in general. And, like, don't get me wrong, it starts with a little bit of an upsetting moment, but after that point, I feel like it doesn't matter. Like, there's an intro that doesn't matter, especially because this movie has more of a time problem, I feel, than our last movie, where in the last movie we couldn't really tell what time what was what, but it doesn't really matter because overall it made sense. In this movie, while there isn't any time jumps necessarily, there are, at least not ones that we see, there are definitely time jumps in this movie that happen, but we can't tell as the audience because they don't really show us or tell us that time is skipped, except for at the end of the movie when the mom finally says, "It's been about a year." And it's like,
yeah.
Oh, so that's how much time has passed. Because, like, there's a couple moments in this movie where I have questions. I'm confused why this is going on, why this actor acts this way or whatever, why stalking can be glorified.
Yeah, no, that part still weird.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's definitely moments in this movie that are definitely weird, but then once it starts talking about the tension moments and starts amping up the thriller, I can enjoy this movie. Especially one thing that I want to talk about, because the end credits, one of the first end credits that you see is cinematography, and that's because I feel that the cinematographer and the movie makers were proud of the cinematography of this movie. Which I get it. They used like so many different filming techniques that they created a good story using the storytelling elements. They even used cameras in the movie to create the story tension, which is kind of interesting. But at the same time, it runs into one of my least favorite styles of movie ever, which is found footage. Yeah. So it's parallel to that, but that's just personal opinion. But what I was getting at is the fact that once they actually get to the tension, and it's not the found footage moments, I freaking love it. Like how they just do the simple, subtle push-ins and the long silence with like nothing but the two people talking, and then you get to see the camera angles and how they impose upon each other and kind of like enforce dominance. It's like it's good. There are definitely good moments of cinematography in this movie, for sure.
Yeah. No, this movie's fun in that sense, but man,
then you get.
I will say again, I think this bodes to my theory that Shia's a good actor.
I mean, absolutely at this point, because the first two.
But he's not in great films.
Yes. So, like the first two movies that we saw for Shia LaBeouf were. I'm always so damn
it was Fury and
Battle of Shaker Heights. Battle of Shaker Heights. I guess he's a slightly complex teen, but that was just a really bad movie. Or bad written movie, so I kind of throw it to the side. With Fury, it's a well-written movie, but he's not really one of the main characters, so he doesn't get much time.
But he makes that character his own.
Absolutely. He definitely sticks out there as like a character who doesn't necessarily... Like, he fits in to that world. And fun fact, he didn't shower while he was filming that role.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah.
Fuck, that would suck.
Yeah, he stank a bit, from what I've heard. Okay, but this movie, we get to see... like somewhere in between his experience at Fury, but not quite Battle of Shaker Heights newness, and it's really interesting to see what he can do. Don't get me wrong, there are definitely moments when I feel like he's pulling a Transformer, going like, like just yelling.
Well, this is the same year as Transformers, fun fact.
Yeah, so.
Well, the thing is, like, Shia's really good at eccentric characters as well, in my opinion. He's good at adding energy to a scene. And that's one of the things, when we get there, that he does bring to Transformers as well. But this movie overall isn't great. Like, I don't know. It's weird, because, like, you could see the makings of a really good film here.
Yeah, if they just cut out the, like, teen life stuff, like, the early 30 minutes, maybe cut that down about to 15, maybe 20, I'll allow that. And then they start talking about, like, the tension and stuff, because they do random things where they, like, deflect away from the tension that they're building by, I don't know, having somebody call or having somebody like get I don't know, they just sorry, I'm having a hard time concentrating.
Like being teenagers.
Yeah. Like, it's just constantly happens. And there's, what was it, the first moment of when we start feeling any sort of tension happens, is it the bunny moment? Yeah.
Well, I say the tension starts with the reveal of the car.
The news report in the car?
Yeah, like the first ping.
Yeah.
And the tension of, who is this guy and what's he doing?
Like, I didn't really feel that part as tense. Like, I know that the movie was trying to portray it as a tense moment.
I look at it as the foundation to the tension, if that makes sense. Like, it's the first... I'd say it's the first, like, if it's a guitar, it's the first strum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, before, like, it's the beginning of the song, so that's just the first of... Dun, 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 dun.
I get you.
As it builds the tension of the song.
And then from that point on, it takes a long time to get to the tension moments. But then, when it finally decides that it's going to be this thriller movie, our main characters don't even notice, really, until way later on.
Right?
Eh.
God,
So,
they were way too calm about that guy.
like, part of me understands how a lot of this could be explained away, but another part of me is really upset. Like, it'll take us getting into spoilers for me to really like discuss like the key things that get me angry, because a lot of it's just simple storytelling.
Yeah.
But other parts of it, I actually kind of like. Like,
Well, then before we do that,
yeah,
acting was all right. Good.
Shia was great, yeah.
Well, do you think everyone else was pretty
I was
good
about to say,
for
other
the roles
people
they were
that I
given?
want to talk about, Ashley, Sarah, I think she did fine with what she was given, but I feel like her character in general was just done dirty.
Yeah. Girl
See.
next door that has to fall for male protagonist was
Yeah.
her role.
Yeah, and then when it came to the final moments, she just kind of was told to fuck off. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
let's see. Then I don't remember who Julie is, but Mom,
The mom.
Mom,
Played by what's her character in
Carrie Ann
fucking...
Moss.
Hey, I'm trying to remember her name in fucking Matrix. Fuck.
Trinity.
There you go. Thank
Took
you.
me a moment. So yeah.
Viola Davis is in this movie too, which I fucking blanked on. This movie shortly, but like she's just like she showed up like, oh yeah, fucking Viola Davis is in this.
like she is definitely a person who's very recognizable face. But the problem in this movie is her very recognizable face feels like she's typecast, and she doesn't. In this movie, once again, not much to work. Like, there's just not much to work with for that character. But still, it was nice to see her, for sure. I'm trying to think of any character who I think was essentially wasted, but there's not necessarily a moment where someone's wasted. There's even like extra characters in this movie who I feel are okay. Like the three boys in this movie. Normally I'd be upset by, something happening in the film that doesn't really revolve around the film at all. But they were fine.
Yeah, no, they were all right. They added the comedic beats needed.
Mm-hmm. But then, yeah, like we've already said before, just too much with the pulling away from the tension teaser stuff. But yeah, otherwise, other actors were great. Cinematography was good. Editing was overall fine, except for how they portrayed how time progressed.
Yeah.
Let's see. Me personally, I don't like found footage, but that they did it. They did it in a good way, I feel. But at the same time, a lot of this movie's tensions would be lowered if he just learned to not zoom in so much.
Yeah.
So
he gets really zoomed in there.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know.
Kind of weird.
Yeah.
All right. If we're ready for Sorios, then what are you rating this with your popcorns, good sir?
With my popcorns, I will rate this movie. It's not a kids' film, so we don't have to worry about the point up. I will give it a 6.5.
You're gonna hate me.
Is it gonna be an 8.5?
No. I'm debating between a 6 and a 6.5, actually.
Oh, okay. And
So
LaBelle, I think it's going well. Thanks for asking in chat.
I'll just do 6.5 this so it's solid for
Right,
that.
yeah.
So Disturbia is solid 6.5.
Which
For a film that came out, God, fucking over a decade ago.
it's just kind of weird though, because with our rating system, because I personally would much rather watch Disturbia over watching Holes again, but we still rated Holes higher.
It's a better film and more enjoyable, But um, yeah, it's Disturbia is a weird film that I think is more to digest in your brain.
Not much more, but I guess yeah. It it like
There's more to criticize,
there's more to criticize, and I
which
feel
may
like
make it more fun to watch.
the way I agree with though, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Um, with Disturbia, my last comments before we head into spoilers, I guess, if I'm comparing it to Holes, is with Disturbia there are lower lows than in Holes, so when we get to the peaks, it feels like there's bigger like changes in the overall storytelling. So I guess that's why I enjoy it more. But once we start getting into the technical like storytelling stuff, and it just kind of falls apart a little bit.
Hey, it's okay to like a movie because we do rate these. I mean, if you want to give it more points, go for it.
I really don't, though. That's the thing. Like, it's just odd.
That's what it is. Okay, you chose 8, you chose 7, and we give Kids Movie an extra point, so that puts it at 8.
Yeah, it's just the extra kids point. That's honestly what it is that's throwing it off. Because if I did add the kids point, it'd only be half a point difference, then it wouldn't really bug me. Now it's a point
it's
and a
a
half.
rule we've had for a while.
I know it is. I'm not blaming you, and I'm just damn kids movies.
Podcast has to podcast.
Yep. Also, before we hop into spoilers, Disturbia is a lot like a newer movie that came out fairly recently, where Don't Breathe, where the neighbor is a killer because
I still haven't seen it, actually.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
Oh
either.
wait, we were gonna do that with Quiet Place 2. Oh, that was this year that we were planning that. That would have been like 2 months ago, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been about 4 or 5 weeks ago at this point.
Oh, March, I thought. I thought it was supposed to come out in March, right? No, it was supposed to come out in April. Quiet Place 2 was April. Oh, man. That was a weird, like, curve for our show.
Yeah, remember when life was normal? Yeah.
The last movie I went to theaters for. Freaking The Invisible Man.
What a great time. Okay.
Yeah, because we were, the movie that we were going to do, because we were doing Quantum of Solace and Skyfall. And then we were going to do something else. And then, like, that next month was going to be Spectre and, what is it? Spectre and the new one, No Time to Die. Yeah, no, Rear Window, I think, is what heavily influenced this movie, in a lot of ways. Which that movie is really weird because it's just a dude with a broken leg looking out a window at other people's windows. Man.
But it's a movie I had to study in film school, so that's fun. That's a story about cinematography. Yes, spoilers. Let me press this button. That button.
Yes.
There we go. We're in
All right, spoilers for Disturbia from this point on. If you care about spoilers for a 12-year-old movie, 13-year-old movie, well, you better get going.
Yeah. So, key things I want to talk about in Disturbia.
Got it. I'll let you take the lead on this one. Let's go.
First thing I want to talk about is the time in this story. So, the movie starts with dad and son fly fishing.
I forgot that was the start of this movie.
I did
entirely.
Too. Like
I've seen this movie like at least 3 to 4 times.
Mm-hmm.
I completely forgot the beginning of this movie
because it really doesn't matter to this movie. The only reason it matters is to explain why our main character Kale has a bad temper when his teacher asks him about his dad.
Which anyone would have probably reacted the same way.
Yeah,
depending on how long, like, what would your dad think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, he's going through the loss of his father, so you're going to criticize him over how you're letting your father down? Like, no.
You're now dead, Dad? Man, what a disappointment you are.
Yeah,
what would he think?
That's messed up. I wrote that on here. I was like, that's a messed up teacher. But, after that point, but that's already a part where it's mixed up, because between when Dad dies and we get to the class lecture, it's, I don't know. We don't know how many months has passed, but
because he's had time to heal his face.
yeah, like he's fine, and he's in class, and summer school is starting. So my guess is it's been like 8 months, maybe.
Well, the thing is, they're fly fishing, and you can't really do that. You can't do that. You can't do fly fishing in the cold. So either it's been, so it had to have happened either last fall or summer.
And now we've gone almost a full year. But then my question is, because we don't know how much time has passed between the class accident and the car accident, and now we are in the school's summer, where we have 3 months supposedly with him wearing this ankle bracelet for house arrest.
Yes.
And then once again, we don't know how much time passes until towards the end of the film, where all we hear is from the beginning of the movie to right before things start kicking off, when Mom goes to visit the neighbor. She says it's been a little over a year. And the reason why I'm stuck in all this time stuff is, one, the beginning gap is barely an explanation of what has happened. Like, barely gives you enough of a time of an explanation to understand why our movie has to movie in the first place. And then the second part is, like, there's a moment of tension that's created within this film where our bad guy, I think his name is Frank, but I can't remember.
Mr. Turner?
Mr. Turner? Yeah, we'll just call him Mr. Turner. There's a moment where Mr. Turner, like, comes into the house, and it's an awkward point of tension for the son, but the mom gives him a look like, don't fuck this up, he's the first guy who's talked to me. But it feels like that's a really short gap of time to be over your deceased husband.
Yeah! Well, at the same time, the other thing too is, like, we don't know how long, like, into the summer it is either, because we know that Ronnie is supposed to go to Hawaii from the beginning of summer to, some point in summer. So at least I'd guess 2 weeks, 3 weeks, because you don't just go to Hawaii for 2 days.
No, yeah.
Long enough for him to have got his mom pissed off enough that she's no longer being his maid, quote unquote, to turn off his Xbox Live and somehow cancel iTunes.
Yeah, she'd have to know his password to be able to do that, but whatever.
Right? Or, like, because iTunes subscription, how did that work? Was it you paid to have music, or
yes,
you paid for the music?
You paid for
the music. I thought it was you paid for the music, not paid to be able to listen to the music. Because from what it looked like, as soon as he canceled that subscription was canceled, he wasn't able to listen to the music.
I think the way it used to work, I don't think it really matters to the movie, honestly. But just to answer your question, I think the way it used to work was you paid money to get to the music to your account. But if you can't access your account, you can't get access to that music.
But how did he get locked out of his account then?
Maybe he didn't log out and his mom blocked him while he was still logged in. I don't know.
It's just weird.
Yeah. But
it's just trivial things that didn't need to happen. I don't know, like little things like that. Which means it had to have been a while too.
Yeah, and the thing.
Which did you like the really blatant Xbox and Ghost Recon ads?
No, yeah, those were great. But that also leads me to another problem I have, though, because the whole reason why our main character starts stalking in the first place is he walks into his dad's old office, where he's like reminiscent and sad and whatnot, and then he looks out the window and sees his new neighbor Ashley changing in her bedroom with her windows wide open. Which sets the precedent of him wanting to start staring at people, and then sets the theme where he looks at this person and watches this person and watches that person, whatever. But I feel like it's really shoehorned in here, because for this whole rest of the movie, once again, this is the only moment where Dad's death really matters. There's 3 moments in this whole film. When Dad actually dies, when he punches this teacher, and now when he's in the study. But as soon as he enters that study and starts staring at her changing, like...
There's one more where Ronnie goes through it and, like, is walking through there. He's like, oh, I haven't been in here since his dad died. Obviously, like, that look.
Yeah.
But, like, it's immediately glossed over.
Yeah, with, look, she's about to go swimming. Or, no, it was, look, there's about to be an affair happening across the street, I think.
Yeah. Well, the other thing about it, too, he's had to have had enough time to know that the woman across the street goes to play tennis every Tuesday.
Or
which means...
Thursday or whatever.
One of the T days. Mm-hmm. Which means, by that calculation, to know that it's a consistent thing, I would say you need at least 3 weeks.
I was about to say 3 at least, yeah.
Minimum.
I mean, he also has an alarm for when she does yoga on certain days on his phone. So...
He's been doing this for a while. Mm-hmm. Minimum, again, 3 weeks to have the routines down. Which means he had to have been taking notes. Even if they're mental notes, they're notes. Which at that point, like, what you just it's a weird hobby. Stop.
Yeah, and then the part that bugs me is at the very end how it's all glorified, where she's having her party, and he's like, these are all the things I've noticed because I stare at you through the window.
Oh, that conversation was so...
And there's a moment there where I have hope for her, where she's like, that's either the creepiest, and I'm like, yes, that's the creepiest thing someone's ever said to you. And she's like, or the sweetest, and I'm like, oh, fuck you.
No, you dumb bitch, no, you fell for it.
Yeah, like, that is straight up creepy. Like, maybe if you guys are already dating, and he starts saying these things, like, the way you do this, and the way you do that, that's sweet. But if this is just some random stranger who's a neighbor on house arrest, who's like, hey, I like when you...
You're right, he's on house arrest right now, too.
And she watched him get arrested in his front yard as she was moving in. Oh, but hey, he's attractive.
And he's the hero. Because he saves the day in the end. Which, can we talk? There needed to be more of Mr. Turner in this movie.
Absolutely. Like, and some decisions could have been completely different. Like, if, say for instance, you're a murderer who stashes bodies in his walls. Would you let this kid kind of dig into the vents where he knows where a body is and walk past him to stare at him through a window? Or would you chop his legs off while he's not looking at you? Because there's a moment in this movie where he's in the tunnel, like, looking through the air ducts in Mr. Turner's house, and he sees the lady in the bag. And then we get a view from outside looking at his legs as something walks by. That's called a monster camera angle, and in this case, Mr. Turner was the monster. So obviously, he's right there.
And you only use that if they're right there.
Yeah. So you
don't use that as just like an establishing shot. That's not an establishing shot. That's the monster shot.
Yeah, that's something that tells you, ooh, something's about to happen. And he just walks by and then goes outside for random lightning to flash and light him up as Kale's walking by in the house to the secret doorway, which he randomly finds. Because he could somehow get access to the blueprints of his neighbor's house.
I mean, blueprints to houses are supposed to be on file, right?
Yes, I think. I don't, like, my question is, how did he get it, though? Like, if it's on file, how did he leave his house?
He had Ronnie go get it at
sure.
the library or something. I don't know,
like,
man.
But that's just a moment that they skip in the movie, where it's like, where suddenly they have suspicion about him. And then the next scene, when he's told to stop following it because they've proven something wrong, like both Ronnie and his girlfriend, Ashley, not his girlfriend yet, are like, hey, you should take a step back from this. He doubles down and he's like, I have the blueprints to this house.
No, they're dating at that point.
Kind of.
Enough that they're dating.
Yeah. It just seems like a weird jump.
Because that's like, they're dating, then the car scene happens. with Ashley and Mr. Turner.
Yes. Which was one of my favorite scenes, actually. Because he's creepy, but not all at the same time. It's tense, it's slow, the sound is silence except for the two of them. The cinematography is one of those moments where I was talking about where he just feels like his presence is just towering over her. And then he just lets her go.
Also, that game was Ghost Recon Advanced Warfighter 2. Fun fact.
Yeah. Let's see. And then the thing that ultimately kind of bugs me, I guess, is when after they start making out and stuff on the bedroom, when he's finally had his moment of being like, "I like you. You're really cute," and she falls for the creepy stuff. Then we get to see our cutaways as the audience of him slicing somebody up and screaming. And they're screaming, but it's strange. I don't know. Like, it was a red herring that he did intentionally, is my guess. With the deer, of course.
Yeah.
But it just sucks with the way that they shot it for me, where it's intentional, like, yep, they were right this whole time, and our own main characters don't get to see it. Which, I know it's a little gimmick for the audience to create tension for us, because we know that he's right, but then they disprove it later on, which cuts that tension again, only so they could ramp it up again later. It's like a cheap ploy, ultimately, to try and draw out the tension, but they do it in a way that is, once again, cheap, and I don't like it. Like, it could work sometimes, and in some movies, but it's only because the tone of this movie changes so drastically from tension thriller to teenage romance novel that it's hard to, like, balance the two.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, man. Like, I don't know. It doesn't... The outline of a good movie's in this movie.
I'd say so, yeah.
But it's not a great movie, overall.
I feel like what they tried to do in this movie is they wanted to do the strange tonal shifting. They wanted to have moments where where it was the teen movie that led to a scary horror. It's just, I don't think they approached it well enough to be able to, like, at least get me to forgive the fact that he's a creepy stalker.
No, you can't forget it, because it's his personality in this movie.
And then, let's see. And then I guess the last thing I have to complain about is still the crappy found footage style moments.
You and found footage.
It's just the whole reason why this movie is tense is because the way the cinematography in that works is it's through the found footage lens of a person who doesn't know how to hold a camera properly. So it looks tense because we have barely any information on what's going on. A lot of it has to do from the sound design, which sound design in this movie, great. Music and the lack of music at times, great. But once we get past the sound design parts, all the tension comes from the bad camera. And I don't like it.
That's fair.
That's
eventually, we need to watch Cloverfield together.
The original Cloverfield?
Yeah. Just to see if it's the one that changes your opinion.
I've watched it.
You haven't watched it with me.
No, I have not.
And maybe that could sway it for you.
Have we watched? No, we haven't. If we're doing Cloverfield, I think we have to do Cloverfield at 21 Cloverfield Lane.
Oh, well, duh. I thought it was 14 Cloverfield Lane. It's something Cloverfield Lane. It's Cloverfield Lane. We'll just call it that. We have not done that yet. But yeah, we've the other one we've done is Paradox. And technically, if it's still part of that one, the Nazi zombie one.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about. But
Overdrive? Was that what it's called?
That's Overkill, maybe?
Something like that.
It's
It was over something.
That sounds right. Overlord.
There it is. But it was. I don't know if it's canon technically.
I don't think it is.
But it should be.
It started as canon, but then didn't continue.
Because of Paradox. But, you know, it's... I think the problem with it is that it doesn't quite work because it is, it's beyond amateur. Like, it's acting like you're amateur, how they're recording it.
It feels like,
I think that's that bothers me. Because, like, the thing that I like about Cloverfield is that it feels like how someone would genuinely record something in that scenario, at least as best as you can. You know what I mean?
The way I would compare it is look at, I mean, I hate to bring up modern events, but look at riot videos and protest videos, the camera of those.
Yes.
That doesn't look anything like the Disturbia videos that we're seeing.
No. Disturbia looks like how Hollywood thinks amateurs record things. Mm-hmm. While, like, Cloverfield is more how people, I feel, would actually record things. With, minor touches to be actually cinematic, because you have to be, because it's a movie. Mm-hmm. This movie does the found footage thing as though it's, like, oh, some amateur found it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Which doesn't really work for me. I don't know. So, yeah. I agree with you on it. It doesn't, it definitely, it's trying to build tension, but for me it kind of kills it, because it's just too amateur.
Okay, so let's see. Is there anything else in my notes, spoiler-wise, that I want to talk about? Let's see. Nope. No, I think we basically covered all the stuff I wanted to talk about.
Oh, well, I got nothing then. You covered everything I would have hit, so. Dead air, dead air, dead air, dead air.
I got nothing else.
Sorry, I'm just. It's trying to call it out when it happens.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I definitely just sat there reading my notes, thinking I missed something. I didn't. Thanks for filling the dead air. It's like when you're lip syncing. You just say watermelon, watermelon, watermelon. Dead air, dead air. It's the same effect. All right, so that's it for our movie review segment of this podcast. We're gonna briefly hop into the news and wrap up. And hey, hi, Dragon. Thanks
hey, finally came through. I thought I put those in forever ago, by the way. I put them in, but I don't think I hit submit, I guess.
Oh, God.
Hey, but they're there.
It's called the har har har.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God.
What else was I going to call it? Our tag on there is har har.
I love it and I hate it all at the same time. Oh, God.
Har har har.
Har har har. We're so funny. Oh, God. Oh. At least now I can sarcastically laugh at people with style. So there's news. Our first emote's up finally after 2 years.
Shut up. Fuck you.
Other news this week. While I quickly remember where I wrote down the things I wanted to talk about. Let's talk about next week's movies before we hop into other things. I'm actually really excited for next week's movies. These are the ones I feel like have the most promise for me that I will enjoy.
Oh, maybe. We'll see. We're watching the greatest game ever played in Borg versus McEnroe.
Yeah,
McEnroe.
Both.
I'm still looking forward to the week after that because it's two of his newer films, and then it's the movies that this month was billed for.
Yeah. Yes, I guess. Okay. I guess I misspoke. The sports movies will be fine. I like sports movies only because they take something that could, depending on who you are, be considered boring, like golf and tennis, and turn them into a character-driven, piece. Which these next 2 weeks are going to be great examples of Shia's actual acting. Like, especially, I think, like Peanut Butter Gamer, or Peanut Butter Falcon and Honey Boy. Those two, in 2 weeks, will be awesome. Especially because there is newer films after he's gone through, like, his life philosophy metamorphosis. But then, yeah, next week is The Greatest Game Ever Played, and Borg versus McEnroy, golf and tennis. Not really sure what else to talk about with them. Let's see. Other things to talk about. You know, life is still messed up. There are things starting to come, like movies and some minor productions are starting to open back up again, which I actually find a little surprising, in all honesty.
Well, yeah, with recent studies showing certain things are on the rise after some people maybe opened up a little early. I won't point to certain areas. I may say their names, Florida. But who knows? Certainly not scientists. I don't know. We'll see what happens going forward at this point. Genuine question for you.
Okay.
Since this is what this podcast is about. If they open up, do you want to go back to the theater when it opens?
See, that's a tough debate. Like, I both
Right?
do and I don't. I guess it really depends on what the theater does, because if we're just going to be crammed in there like we used to be, I'm going to say no.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, if I could still rub elbows with my neighbor, I'm not going to go to a theater. But if there's at least, like, a gap or two of seats, I might be a little bit more okay. Like, as long as I don't...
It also it has to be a reason to go to the theater, too, you know?
Yeah, it's not like one of the... Like, say, for instance, the next movie that's coming to theaters that we know of, at least that I know of, the first confirmed movie coming out is Tenet by Christopher Nolan.
Yeah.
I don't really know if that's a movie that we'll be watching.
No, because, like, it's we love Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah, he's a great...
But, like, the sad part is, it's not a blockbuster. Like, that's kind of how you got to look at it. Like, the ones that, like, the reason you go to the theater usually is for a blockbuster, and then for our show, it's, like, the filler in between the blockbusters. But, like, I don't know if I want to risk going to the theater for all the filler at this point.
Yeah.
It's a weird thought that has been ailing me. I miss the shit out of going to the movies, though.
Yeah, I miss having the great surround sound and the giant screens. I still need to see an IMAX film, for fuck's sakes. Like, I want it to happen, damn it. So, it's that.
I figured I'd ponder that on you for a moment.
I don't mind that ponderation, because it's a legitimate question. Like, my dad has this theory that because of the pandemic, everything's going to be different for the next 5 years. After these...
Oh, if not longer.
Yeah, he only thinks 5 years.
I think there's going to be some permanent changes going forward.
I agree with you, but if you tell my dad that, he'll be like, no, science and vaccines, that'll happen. It'll take about 5 years. After that, we'll be back to normal. But...
Well, back to normalcy is how I'm going to put it. The thing that I see happening is that our generation and Gen Z, shit happens, and then they go, fuck this, it's changing. I don't see, at least to this degree, a pandemic happening like this again. At least in our lifetime. At least to this degree, because people are going, like, at least younger people, I hope, are going to see it and be like, hey, this happened and we can't let it happen again.
There's a lot of things we have to hope out for in the future, honestly.
Yeah. If you haven't gone out, go out and register to vote.
Yes, do that. Okay. Other things to talk about. Only because it's some news that might be exciting. If you like the TV show Chernobyl, the director from that show is going to be working on The Last of Us pilot. He'll be the director of The Last of Us pilot for HBO.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he's good
I'm
at.
still interested in what they're gonna do with that.
I'm too. I'm sure if we actually looked into it, there's probably more of an explanation. But I hope they don't focus around like the main movie characters or the game characters. Yeah, I hope they make up their own characters and just use their world. Honestly, because I feel that would
be the right way to do it.
Yeah, I feel that'd be a much better story. Like, sure, you could still call it The Last of Us, but you just don't have Joel. Maybe you run into him in one episode, but I just don't want him to be the focus.
Yeah, no, because they're going to have their own story elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. So there's that. So if you like that director and you like Chernobyl, you'll almost definitely like what they're going to do with The Last of Us when they actually make it. The Simpsons gave a commencement speech for the class of 2020. They animated a commencement speech. And that appeared... Where did it go? It appeared on YouTube. And it was... awesome, I guess. I don't know. I'm just trying to find things to talk about because still, as always, there isn't really much news to talk about yet. Well, the world.
Oh, whatever do you mean?
Yeah. Let's see. Nick Kroll revisits Big Mouth's hormonal monster. Oh, I actually have a question for you because I've been seeing this more and more. What are your opinions on... Okay, that's strange. What are your opinions on Disney Plus?
That I don't know if I'm going to keep using it right now. There's just nothing new to it. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. Like, Disney Plus, don't get me wrong, it has a great archive of Disney movies. And if you're okay with watching old movies that you've seen a bunch of times, I think it's great. It's just, I kind of want to see more things that I haven't seen before. And there isn't really new content that they're making now. And there isn't old content that really catches my attention. So, that's the one problem I'm having with Disney Plus. Like, there's nothing new that's grabbing my attention to keep it anymore.
I think there probably would have been more new stuff if we didn't fall into what we fell into at this point.
You're probably right. Like, there's probably supposed to be some other TV shows and things. The only things that, like, kind of interest me at the moment are the documentary. Definitely the documentaries, not kind of. Like, the documentaries that they have, and not, like, the National Geographic ones. Don't get me wrong, they're fine and all. But the documentaries that they have on filmmaking, like the behind-the-scenes of The Mandalorian, and the behind-the-scenes of all the old Disney movies that they've made. They have documentaries on that on Disney+, which those are interesting to me. But that's only because those aren't aimed towards an audience of kids. Like,
no.
After a while, like, I don't know what it is. I guess my mood changes so vehemently, I just can't stick to one thing for long. But, like, my escape from watching all these action movies that we had been watching for so long was to watch cartoons and things. But now I've been watching so many fucking cartoons, I'm sick of them, and I want to watch something else. But there's no new movies to watch. So there's nothing to watch.
Like I said.
I mean, that's not the truth, but still.
You can borrow my Verve. You're willing to watch subbed.
I just have to actually
catch up on some stuff that you want to watch. You can watch Fire Force. Fire Force. I'll keep pushing this on people, man. It's so good.
Oh, here's something that might be interesting. You Should Have Left, a Blumhouse movie, which Blumhouse is kind of known for horror sometimes, mainly thriller, is coming to VOD later this month. So You Should Have Left. There's a trailer for it. It comes out on June 19th. I'm not going to watch the trailer because that will get us striked on YouTube.
And potentially Twitch.
Yes, now on Twitch as well. Watch every chick flick movie from the 1990s to now.
Good luck.
Yeah.
It's a lot of movies.
The Notebook. There's a lot of chick flicks.
Yeah.
Like, they're not bad movies by any means. It's just not something I want to watch 500 of. Let's see, do you see any fun or interesting news that you might...
No, there really hasn't been much, man. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel, I feel like.
Jon Favreau says Mandalorian Season 2 will still come out in October.
Man, you're scraping. It's just...
Evil Dead.
We can end the show
fine.
if you're scraping. It's fine.
We already watched
We don't
Uncut
have...
Gems. Sorry.
Uncut Gems isn't a chick flick.
No, not a chick flick.
God.
Are you gonna argue with us Are you about to tell us why you think Uncut Gems is the chick flick? Oh, okay.
Okay.
No, that's okay.
That's understandable.
I was about to say, today I was really interested because Dev proposed to me a thesis paper on how Holes is a white savior movie, and now you're about to propose another where Uncut Gems is a chick flick.
Oh, Bond is on the table still. We still, I feel like we still want to... I kind of want us to finish the Daniel Craig ones first.
Yes.
Before we do the rest of them. Because I feel like watching the other ones may taint the Ellie Stevens palette. Because I don't know how many of the Bond movies you've watched other than the Craig ones.
I don't know if I have, honestly.
Then I don't want him to be completely tainted until he watches the rest of this trilogy, or this anthology.
I like how you always have to say it's it's a duology, it's a triology, it's a pentology. Use words, damn it.
Roast me? Yeah, no. But I want us to finish the Daniel Craig ones before we hit the Sean Connery and the Pierce, and there's some more those era ones. So, because those are completely different from this set of movies.
I guess it really all depends. I could find value in every kind of movie. It's just
Yes, but I want your take of the Craig ones to be unbiased as possible.
Okay.
From having an affiliation with the rest of the franchise, like myself, who has sat through all of the Bond movies at least once, with my father. So, I'm down for spaghetti westerns. You're talking to the guy who has the poster for the Fistful of Dollars.
I brought up a spaghetti western, and you're like, I don't know.
What spaghetti western did you bring up?
The Villain, with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I'm gonna beat you. That's not a spaghetti western.
It's considered.
End the show.
5, we're done.
End it.
Thanks everybody
We're done.
for being here.
I'm done here. I'm done. I'm so done with you.
Live action Cowboy Bebop. One of these days, baby. I hit the wrong button. So yeah, thanks everybody for being here. We're done here. Short podcast, I guess, but it's fine. It's fine. It's almost.
And these two movies are short movies, so
Well, kind of. I was actually surprised to see that Holes was 20 minutes longer.
Right?
Yeah. It was quite interesting. But yeah, so we're done here. See you next week for The Greatest Game Ever Play and Borg versus McEnroy.
Wait, the Borg? The Borg are coming?
Yes. First Contact. Prepare to
shit, I gotta get out of here, man.
There's no running. You will be assimilated. Alright. Bye, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next week.
I'm gonna take us all, man!
Are they? Okay. Bye.